Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Welcome back, and if you are new, thanks for tuning in today. For today, we're going to do a quick vid on the oil changing of our 2012 BMW X3. This does have the inline 6-cylinder engine, 3-liter, not the turbocharged option, just the standard. So it's the 28i X-Drive. Going to go ahead and change the oil and go through the oil change reset. If you don't care to go into the dealer to have that reset. We can do that by using our Carly scanner, so there will be a link below. And let's get going. So while it is a little dirty under here and there are some leaves hanging around, it has been parked outside, unfortunately, the last few weeks since our Mustang project came home, because that does have a leaky convertible top. But since we actually just got the roof put on our shop this past weekend, that has been evicted from the garage, and BMW is back in the garage for the fall and winter. So our fall project's yet to get this engine bay cleaned up and the car cleaned up in general. But we do have the oil filter cover right here, and after trying to make it work with our old 2007 X3, I went out to FCP Euro and bought the proper removal tool that fits on there, and then you just knock that off with a socket wrench, and that makes things a lot easier. I mean, I've tried just the standard rubber strap thing to try and twist that off, and there's just not enough room to work around in here, even if you take off this metal or this plastic cover to get the oil filter cap off. So I went out and bought the right tool, pretty inexpensive, I think under $30, and fits right on there. So we are going to go ahead and drop the oil underneath. So for all of our vehicles here, I change the oil every 5,000 miles, pretty much religiously. Now I know the BMW, for example, you can go 8,000 miles between oil changes. Our diesel pickup truck Norris gets every 5,000 miles. The Outback does. This does. The Spitfire over there, I don't think that's driven 5,000 miles in the last 10 years. So otherwise, the Mustang will also be getting an oil change, and that will also follow the same schedule. So I just like to keep everything on the same routine, so I'm not having to worry about, hey, the pickup is every 7,500 miles, the Outback is 10, the BMW is 8. Everything is just 5,000 miles, end of story. That also gives me the kind of wiggle room when I've been running back and forth a lot, running errands with this car, and I'm 500 to 600 miles past where I should be for my oil change, per my standards anyways. Between daycare pickup, groceries, and then spending pretty much every working minute of daylight working on the shop this summer, I've kind of let some things slide. One of those has been the oil change on this car. So we're going to go ahead and jack her up, put a couple of jack stands underneath, and drop that oil. So we've got our 27 mil socket on here. And what I like to do is just knock this loose and give a little air release in here, so when I do drain the oil, there's less of a closed system and allows some air to eep in, just to help with the draining of the oil. Just gonna leave that there for now. And let's go below. All right, now we're down here. We've got two little thingamadingers here. Little bolts. They are 8 millimeter. So it's difficult to see from where you are, but I'll try and move you. They're right under here is your drain plug for the oil. 17 mil. No shavings or anything stuck on the oil pan plug, so that's awesome. Got our crush washer here, which we'll go ahead and replace. That is in the new kit with the oil filter. So let's go topside and work on the oil filter while this is draining out. All right, back up top we are, and I like to throw a little paper towel around here just to catch if there's anything that drains out from the filter. You can see a little bit of residue just starting to trickle down. So if I can catch that before it drips on the engine itself, then that is excellent. But it looks like we're good in this case. You can see here the rest of the oil draining out of the top, now that I've broken that seal. And again, the oil looks good, not dirty, not sludgy, but again, with only 5,500 miles on it of very mild driving, should be no reason for disgusting oil. All right, so now we've got our cap off. There are two gaskets, the seals. There's one here, the main O-ring, and then there's one little one here you have to replace. So you want to be careful when you're putting on the new ones. Not so much removing the old ones, but the new ones, make sure you don't rip or tear those. And in that kit, I have my new big O-ring, my little green one here, and that new crush washer. And with these new seals, it's often recommended to put a little dab of oil on them when you're putting them on so they don't get bound up and stick or tear when you're installing them back on. So we got one there. And we'll go do the same for the big O-ring here. Now, one thing to take note of is there's a number of people that have commented in forums over the past I've read, said, hey, I changed my oil and now it leaks from this oil cap profusely. Well, a lot of the problem stems from either people are reusing these O-rings, which is not recommended, or B, when they're putting the O-rings on, they'll actually seat the O-ring in this top little lip here you can see with the little grooves in it, versus the second one from the top, which is actually where that O-ring should be seated. So we'll go ahead and roll them down where it should be. There we go. You can see it's seated in the right ring here versus this one here, which has these little notches or nubs on them. So of course that would not seat correctly. So that's where your oil leak comes from. So just be sure when you are replacing your seals or your O-rings that you are getting it in that correct groove. And as I said, here's that new crush washer. Take the old one off, put the new one on. And that'll be ready to go in the bottom. And our new man filter, our new BMW filter, whatever, this slots right in there. And it's ready to be put back on the vehicle. So let's go over and do that. All right, and you can see most of the oil is out of there. So we'll go set him back in place. I get it down to where it stops. Then you take your torque wrench, set it for 18 foot-pounds, I believe. Both 18 foot-pounds for the oil cap and the drain plug. You hear it click? That way you know it's right where it should be. So now we're going to go down below, put the drain plug back in, and fill it up with oil. All right, and again, we'll grab our Torx wrench, feel our 17 mil socket off our wrench, set her up here. There's your click. You're there. Now I can put that little cover plate back up in place. Someday we'll actually have a lift in the shop, so I don't have to crawl around under a car anymore. That'd be great. Right now I'm debating between one of the Benpack 10,000 pound asymmetrical lifts, 2-post, or do I want to look at a drive-on lift that I can raise up and then store a second vehicle under? Or I guess at the rate I'm collecting vehicles, I may want to look at a larger lift like Hoovy has. However, I have a feeling if I tried to store six cars in the shop, somebody may be displeased with me. All right, so that is done under here. We'll grab all of our stuff out and run back topside. Alrighty, so knock off our oil cap. Look at that, get nice and clean. Got 7 quarts of oil to put in. And we'll come back with 2 more quarts from the next jug. The downside is I can't empty all of my oil into these jugs because one of them is still half full. But we'll have an empty gallon milk container around here sometime soon. And then I'll be able to just take that down to the local shop and recycle that. So just over, all right. So there we go. That should be our 7 quarts. So if you recall from our video earlier this year, and I'll put a link down below or up top, one of the two, is I had a problem of what I thought was a leaky valve cover gasket. And when I would go around corners and whatnot, it was dripping oil onto the exhaust down there and becoming quite stinky. So I ordered the complete valve cover gasket kit from FCP Euro, which included the valve cover gasket itself, the seals for the around the coil packs, and the seal around the Valvetronic motor. And what I found when taking everything off is that there was a lot of oil down in these little wells for the coils. So I figured before I go ahead and take everything off, let me try and replace just the seal here on the Valvetronic motor, and that did the trick. So what I could have turned into a 5 or 6 hour job was less than an hour. Pretty simple task to do, and since then I've put on a few thousand miles, and there is no more signs of new oil down in any of these wells, which is excellent news. I'm very happy about that, and then we can move on with life. So I do still have the rest of that rebuild kit, so if there is ever a time where I do have to replace the valve cover gasket, I do have it, but I am quite pleased I did not have to replace that in this case. Alrighty, and now that we're done with the oil change, we can go ahead, drop the hood, and hop inside and check out Carly for the oil change reset. Oh, let's see, here we go. Handy dandy little Carly device. Go ahead and give her a start. So there's 2 things we can do here. One of them is run into the menu, look in vehicle info, vehicle status, and then we can look at the engine oil level and it's going to take a minute or so to measure that. There is no actual dipstick on this vehicle, so it's all done internally. And also we can look at Carly. Let's connect. And if we go into the features on Carly, we have an option here for service reset. You can read that data. And now we can go in and look at the engine oil. It says it's got a 15,528 mile lifespan on the oil, but we're going to go in here and reset it. And there we go. So now when I start the vehicle again, we're not going to come up with that service, that engine service, and nothing else needed there. And we also see that our vehicle status check for oil has been run and is complete, and we are right where we should be. Everything is green and happy. So that about covers the oil change here for the 2012 X3, otherwise known as the F25 with the N52 engine in it. If you did like this, go ahead and subscribe and like and share with your friends below. If you haven't subscribed, why not? Only about 25% of you are subscribing, so we're working hard to reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers to start with, and keep going from there. So again, thank you for watching, and catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.